The Biden administration is considering a plan to allow some Palestinian refugees to come here to the United States.
We'll just import Hamas here to the United States. They're refugees, after all. It's not entirely true that Joe Biden is completely silent on this issue. He's actually come up with a pretty good idea. CBS News is going to break it down for you. They claim that this is an exclusive from their investigative reports. But let me just tell you how this works in Washington, D.C. The CBS News you're about to get, it's not an exclusive. Here's what it is. It is someone working for the Biden administration who has illegally leaked this anonymously to CBS News for the sole purpose of getting it out in the open. But nobody at the White House wants their name on it. So what they do is they call up a reporter at CBS News and they hand them the entire story. Then CBS News repeats it, claim that it's an exclusive that only their great investigative journalism has uncovered, and then they will win a Pulitzer Prize for it next year. That's what this story is. But more importantly, it's the crux of the story, the actual meat of it that you need to hear right now.
This news exclusively on CBS News. The Biden administration is considering a plan to allow some Palestinian refugees to come here to the United States. That's according to internal federal government documents that were obtained by CBS's Camilo Montoya Galvez. According to the plan, some Palestinians fleeing the war would be offered a permanent safe haven here in the U.S. And one option under consideration is to allow those who have immediate family members who are either American citizens or permanent residents to enter the country if they pass various background checks first. The plans would require coordination with Egypt, which has so far refused to allow large numbers of people from Gaza to cross the border into that country.
That part of the story is my favorite part. I mean, this is the most FUBAR thing that you have ever heard from this administration, and that is saying something. And if you don't know what FUBAR is, Google it. The last part's my favorite part. Because the only way we're going to be able to get these Palestinian refugees flown from the Middle East here to America, where they'll be given a, did you hear that, permanent home, is if Egypt cooperates. You know, Egypt, the country, the Arab country right on the border of Gaza. Because so far they haven't allowed any of these Palestinians into their country. So the Egyptians, who share a border with Gaza and who are actually ethnically and racially and religiously identical to the Palestinians, they refuse to let the refugees into their country, but we are going to fly them into our country. And if that makes perfect logical sense to you, you must have an advanced degree from Columbia University. Or really any other liberal arts college in America. So that's the best part of the story. But let's roll it back a little bit to the beginning part of the story. Let's watch it together.
This news exclusively on CBS News.
I've already explained how it's exclusive. This is somebody in the State Department or in the White House who wants to push this narrative, who illegally told it to them. There's no exclusive reporting here. Who can we give it to? You know what? CBS News, they'll do anything we ask them.
The Biden administration is considering a plan to allow some Palestinian refugees to come here to the United States. That's according to internal federal government documents that were obtained by CBS's Camilo Montoya Galvez.
Obtained. They were handed to them. That's what obtained means. So we want to bring Palestinian refugees from Gaza here to America to have a permanent home. And of course, then they show the B-roll of the, starving, homeless.
According to the plan, some Palestinians fleeing the war would be offered a permanent safe haven.
Permanent safe haven. Now, let's just talk for a second here. Why do they need refugee status? Why do they need asylum? They are refugees because there is a war in Gaza right now. Why is there a war in Gaza right now? Well, because the government of Gaza, known as Hamas, they executed a terror attack on innocent people, including Americans and Israelis, on October 7th, killing 1,200 of them and taking 200 innocent people hostage. They're still holding them hostage right now. And that started the war. The government of Gaza did that. Hamas did that. How did Hamas become the government of Gaza? Well, they were elected. They were elected by whom? They were elected by the citizens of Gaza. The same people who are now refugees, whom we are now supposed to take and bring here for a permanent home. Did you follow all that? So the people of Gaza elect Hamas, put them in power, support them. In fact, if you take a poll of the people of Gaza right now, the same Palestinian people we're talking about, by 80%, they still support Hamas. They elect Hamas to be their government. That government, Hamas, sends a violent terrorist attack, killing 1,200 people. That starts the war. And because of the war, those people who elected Hamas are now refugees. And now Egypt won't take them, the country right next to them. But we are supposed to take them, airlift them from the Middle East, and put them here. And by the way, for the last 20 years, more than 20 years, but at least for the last 20 years, 15 years, since Hamas has been in charge of Gaza, they have run all of the schools. They have run all the institutions. They have run all the media. And those schools and those institutions and that media has drummed into the heads of people of Gaza that Israel and America are great Satans. The people of Gaza, who are now admittedly refugees from a war and having a hard time of it right now, they have been trained and educated their entire lives to hate us. And now we're going to bring them here. Oh, and there's one other missing element here that you're probably not hearing completely. So I want to break that down too. Take a listen.
Here in the U.S. And one option under consideration is to allow those who have immediate family members who are either American citizens or permanent residents to enter the country if they pass various background checks first.
One option is that they will live with family members who are already here. And where do those family members live? Michigan. We're back to Michigan. They live in the suburbs of Detroit, Dearborn to be specific, Rashida Tlaib's congressional district. Now, what happens when all of those American-hating, anti-Semitic, Hamas-supporting refugees who admittedly are having a tough time, look, that boy looks like he's real hungry. Too bad mommy and daddy voted for Hamas. What happens when we bring all of those refugees who hate America and are anti-Semitic and fill up Dearborn, Michigan even fuller than it already is? Well, two things happen. The first is that it gives more power to Rashida Tlaib, that congresswoman. Number two, even more insidious, it increases the population of that area so that when we do a census, it means redistricting, because you understand that we apportion our congressional districts not based on the number of U.S. citizens who live in a certain region. It's based on the number of people who are there, regardless of their immigration status. If they're refugees or even if they're illegal immigrants, if the population of an area increases, then that means that more congressional representation will come from that area that has an increased population. And so you're with me, right? Have you connected the dots? All those refugees, all those American-hating, anti-Semitic, Hamas-supporting refugees that we are going to voluntarily bring over from the Middle East without any congressional approval, and we're going to put them in Dearborn, Michigan, that means that in the next census, we've got a new congressional district, and that means we have another Rashida Tlaib, a Democrat. That's what they're doing. And they're going to do it unilaterally. They're going to do it without any congressional approval. And you know the last time they did this? It was under, I believe it was under Barack Obama. May have been George W. Bush. In war-torn Somalia. and we airlifted a ton of America-hating, radical anti-Semitic refugees from Somalia. They didn't go to Michigan. No, they ended up in Minnesota. And there was such a high concentration of them in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area that they got a new congressional district. And eventually, because they were here legally as refugees, they got their green cards, they got their citizenship, and they got the vote. And the next thing you know, it's Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. And to be fair, she properly represents the Somali immigrants because, as I said, just like them, she is anti-Semitic and hates America. And when she toured the illegal protests in Columbia University, this is how she characterized it.
How do you think this will translate to the Jewish students who are facing anti-Semitism here on campus?
So I actually met a lot of Jewish students that are in the encampment. And I think it is really unfortunate that people don't care about the fact that all Jewish kids should be kept safe and that we should not have to tolerate anti-Semitism or bigotry for all Jewish students, whether they are pro-genocide or anti-genocide.
Wow. Can we break that down together? Yeah, I do love watching these little clips and then parsing them phrase by phrase, because that was a hell of a statement there. Let's start here.
How do you think this will translate to the Jewish students who are facing anti-Semitism here on campus?
So I actually met a lot of Jewish students that are in the encampment.
I have a pet peeve about up talking, where every sentence is finished on a high note. But I got to tell you, she's the worst offender. And I don't know if that's like the dialect you get from Somalia, but it's so accentuated. Remember when she said, what did she say? When she described 9/11 as some people did something? The up-talking is insane. But I keep hearing it. There's a whole lot of Jewish protesters in the encampment. You hear it all the time, right? Isn't that the same thing as saying some of my favorite pro-terrorist protesters are Jewish? Hey, here's a Jewish kid who's here with us. So we can't be anti-Semitic. There's a Jewish kid here. I would dare say that I think that the Jewish kid who is throwing down with the pro-Hamas people right now, probably not Orthodox, probably not spending high holy days at synagogue, probably not avoiding shellfish and pork on a regular basis. I'm guessing. I don't know for sure. You connect the dots, though, okay? All right, so the first statement is, hey, there's plenty of Jewish kids there who also hate Israel. That's hardly an argument.
And I think it is really unfortunate that people don't care about the fact that all Jewish kids should be kept safe and that we should not have to tolerate anti-Semitism or bigotry for all Jewish students, whether they are.
Now, we'll get to the last statement in a moment, but that makes no sense. There are Jewish kids over there, too, and they don't deserve any anti-Semitic attacks. They deserve to be kept safe. They shouldn't have to suffer any bigotry. Who the hell is making those kids unsafe? They're the ones. They're the people who are. What's the word I'm looking for? They're the offenders. They're not the victims. They're the offenders. So the woman asked, what do you say about the Jewish students who feel unsafe on this campus because of the protests? And she said, hey, there are Jewish kids over there and they deserve to feel safe. Who the hell is making them unsafe? Nobody. So she creates a completely false scenario and then ends it with this.
They are pro-genocide or anti-genocide.
Oh, so there you go. So the people can be split into two camps. You're either pro-genocide or anti-genocide. She thinks the people who are supporting Hamas are the ones who are anti-genocide. By the way, in recent history, and I'm talking about the last, let's say, 100 years, famously, there is one ethnic and religious group on our planet who has faced the actual reality of genocide. That would be the Jewish people. When you start tossing around the word genocide, maybe you should be a little circumspect. because she is claiming that it's the Jewish kids who support the state of Israel who are pro-genocide. There is nothing happening in Gaza that is even close to anything that can be described as genocide. Not even close. But that's the phrasing that your Ilhan Omar uses to describe this. And I bring this up. This happened a week ago. But I bring it up only to show you that this will be the result of Joe Biden's plan to airlift refugees from Gaza here to America. It will not be long before we see the next Ilhan Omar, who grew up in Gaza, came here as a result of the war that was started by Hamas, and then that congressperson will be right there in Congress, just like Ilhan Omar. This is what Joe Biden wants. This is what Susan Rice wants. This is what Barack Obama wants. This is what Valerie Jarrett wants. This is what Rashida Tlaib and the squad want. This is what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer want. This is what George Soros wants. This is what the power behind the radical organized left in America wants. This is their goal. And quietly, with this exclusive report from CBS News, they have now announced it. And there is absolutely no reason why we should be taking refugees that Egypt won't take, that Jordan won't take, that Saudi Arabia won't take, that Iran is funding Hamas. They're so down with the cause for the Palestinians. How about Iran take these refugees? Nope. We are the only ones on planet Earth that can take them. Why? Why? Because it's a population play. You increase the numbers in that state, in that district, you get another congressman. And by the way, as pointed out by El Capitan Beefheart in our great chat, where'd it go? It also increases the electoral votes. There it is. That's right. You get another congressional district, you get more electoral votes. That's how it works. That's the formula, and that's what they want. So, you know the plan. You just heard it. I mean, they didn't tell you up front. They wouldn't do that. They're not crazy. They're brilliant, actually. But I've broken it down for you. That's what this is all about. When you start hearing, and there will be Republicans, Mitt Romney will take to the floor of the Senate and say, this opposition to refugees from the Gaza territory disgusts me. That's not who we are. Of course, we'll welcome them with open arms. We are a shining city on a hill. We're the United States of America. Yeah, you know what? We got to be the shining city on the hill by having some discretion about deciding who can come to this country and who can't. I'll tell you what, we'll take just as many refugees as Egypt takes. Can we start there? Love to see that happen. How about Qatar? They've been funding a lot of this. It's a lot closer. It's a shorter plane ride. Oh, yeah, the Republicans will support this. That's not who we are. Great work, everybody. Just be ready for it. This is the argument that's being made, and now you know why they're doing it. It's not humanitarian. It's not out of great concern over those people. It's all about politics. It's all about the vote. They play the long game. I mean, you got to respect the grift. It's impressive.